Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'll be doing a side-by-side comparison between two of the most popular drones to be released so far this summer. Over here, I have the brand new Untitled Robotics Evo 2. It's the AK version. And over here, I have the brand new DJI Mavic Air 2. And man, am I excited about this technology. Now, I'll be doing a series of these clips over the next couple of weeks where I'm comparing one drone against another. So if there's a drone you're considering and you'd like to compare to something else, send me a note. I'll do my best to add it to the list. But I had to start with these two drones because the number of questions we've gotten from viewers out there on the channel about both of these models over the last couple of weeks have been simply overwhelming. Both of these quads are incredibly popular with flyers out there, and I totally understand that because in their own way, both of these quads have really advanced the technology and provided features and functions we haven't seen before when we're flying our drones. So whether you're looking at the Untitled Robotics products where the engineers have really pushed the envelope on flight time, flight distance, the fact that it's got 360-degree obstacle avoidance and 8K camera, this is a drone that shouldn't be up in the air today. When this was announced at CES, remember CES a couple of months back? When this was announced at CES, people lost their mind around the feature sets that came out. It was the drone everybody was talking about. But not to be outdone, right on the heels of that announcement, DJI comes out with the brand new Mavic Air 2, which is a brilliant drone in its own right. It's got APAS 3.0 on it. It has ADS-B in it, which means it's going to sense other airplanes in the area. It's got the same imaging sensor as the Evo 2. It also has built into it Ocusync 2, which gives it a little bit further flight distance than the actual Evo 2. So in a lot of ways, these drones are similar, but there are some key differences between them that you really need to understand if you're in the market for a new drone. Now, whenever I make these kind of comparison clips, in this case in particular, I'm not going to get to the end of this and do a conclusion where I'm saying 100% one way or the other, because it's like that dangerous question that people ask you and never ask this question: which of your kids do you love the most? I love them both just as much, for different reasons. And that's exactly the case here, because there are reasons you'd fly this and reasons you'd fly that, and I'm going to get into that at the end section. But the way I'm going to organize this clip is I'll start off with just sort of a specification showdown where I'll list the specifications of both drones side by side. I know a lot of people out there like to look at those specs and that's how they judge the value of a drone. I'm not a big fan on specifications. I like to put the drone up in the air and fly a little bit. I judge it on footage because, quite honestly, the reason you're buying a drone is to get a camera up in the air. So I'm going to put some sample footage up, show you what they look like side by side. I'll also put some file folders out on the internet where you can download those files for yourself and play with them in your own editing software to make your own decisions. But I also am going to spend a little bit of time talking about this drone and a little bit of time talking about that drone. And at the end, I'll come back and give you my conclusions, because all I want to do with these clips is really provide enough information that if you're in the market to buy a drone, whether you're a new flyer or you're looking to upgrade, I want to give you an idea of exactly what the drone provides, and then you have to decide, what am I going to use that drone for? Is it something I'm going to do a lot of commercial work with, where I'm out working with farmers, surveying fields, or taking pictures of commercial buildings? Or is it something I just want to put up as a hobbyist and fly occasionally on the weekends? You decide what you need in features and what kind of budget you have, and then it'll make sense to you which of these two drones is best for your needs. So what I'm going to try and do is give you as much information as I can about both the drones individually, and at the end I'll come back with a conclusion and point out where this one fits and where this one fits. Because again, even though they have overlapping features, there are special things about them that really segregate them and put them in a specific market for a specific use case. So I'm going to get into that in a minute, so stay tuned and we'll get into the specifications next. The Mavic Air 2 is DJI's newest drone. It weighs 570 grams and can provide 34 minutes of flight time from a fully charged battery. With the inclusion of the brand new Ocusync 2 transmission technology, the drone can fly an incredible 10 kilometers or 6.2 miles away from a pilot while fully under their control. It incorporates both GPS, GLONASS, and visual positioning to give it pinpoint accuracy in the sky. Also included is a 3-direction obstacle sensing system that protects the drone in front, behind, and below while flying from any obstacles. The imaging package features a 1/2-inch professional CMOS sensor, which allows the pilot to take 12 megapixel or 48 megapixel photos and videos in resolutions up to a full ultra high definition 4K at 60 frames a second. The Evo 2 AK is one of 3 models recently released by Untitled Robotics that also include the Evo 2 Pro and the Evo 2 Dual. The Evo 2 AK weighs 1,127 grams and can fly for 40 minutes on a fully charged battery. It relies on an enhanced Wi-Fi transmission technology to provide 9 kilometers or 5.6 miles of flight distance while still fully under the pilot's control. It incorporates GPS, GLONASS, and visual positioning to accurately position itself in the sky, and features an omnidirectional obstacle sensing that protects the drone from any obstacle in any direction while flying. The imaging package is a 1/2-inch professional CMOS sensor that allows it to take 48 megapixel photos and videos up to an 8K ultra high definition resolution. Now I'll dive a little bit deeper into each of these quads individually and point out the brilliant, innovative features that both of these companies have packed into these incredibly smart quads, which really separates them from anything else out there flying today. I'll also spend some time and try to point out the differences between them to help you make an informed decision if you're in the market for a quad, which of these two fit your budget and fit your needs. Now I'd like to start off with the Mavic Air 2 because it's the latest quad to hit the market, and I love this quad. I've been talking about it on the channel ever since it was released. I've been flying it almost daily. Every day we've got sunshine outside. I've got this thing charged up in my car and I'm going to fly someplace cool with it. And I love the quad. And if you've watched the channel for a length of time, you know I'm a huge fan of DJI Engineering. I think their teams are brilliant in the way they look at the market, they look at their products, and they're always trying to push the envelope. They're always looking for the next thing they can do to enhance flying. And the Mavic Air 2 is no exception. They've got some features in here that really don't belong in a quad at this price point. Now, comparatively, the budget's an important factor, right? So when you look at the Mavic Air 2, it's about half the price of the Evo 2. So this clocks in at around $800. The Evo 2 is around $1,500 for the AK version. So from a budget standpoint, this is a home run compared to the Evo 2. But you would think for that price point that it would be a little bit less sophisticated than a lot of the other quads out there, and nothing could be further from the truth. So the Mavic Air 2 is, in a lot of ways, almost a clone of the original Mavic Pro, which is the one that actually started this whole folding quad revolution. I've been a huge fan of that Mavic Pro ever since it was released. It's still one of my favorite quads to fly. I had it out yesterday. I had it up in the air flying it. And what the Mavic Air 2 represents is a smaller version of the Mavic Pro with a whole lot more advanced feature set. So right now in the DJI lineup, you've got the Mavic Mini, which is smaller. You've got the Mavic 2, which is bigger, and you've got the new Mavic Air 2, which is right in the middle. It's sort of that perfect Goldilocks zone between those two other quads. But what they packed into this from an advanced perspective is longer flight time. So 34 minutes of flight time is pretty cool. Getting it up in the air for 34 minutes and getting 80% of that battery gives you plenty of time to capture the footage you need. In addition to that, they've upgraded the transmission topology to Ocusync 2, which is the latest iteration of that rock-solid telemetry that allows you to fly this thing, I can't get over this, 10 kilometers. Now, again, you're not going to fly the quad that far, but knowing you can fly it that far means flying it enclosed. You're going to have a rock-solid connection, so when you're around trees or around buildings and you're in that crowded environment with a lot of noise from a Wi-Fi system, you're going to have great connection to the quad, so you're going to be sure that you're not going to lose connection. I also love the fact that they built in three-way obstacle detection. So I've got protection in front, protection in back, and protection down. Now you may say to yourself, well, gee, why didn't they do the sides? Why didn't they do the top? That would have been great. Well, the challenge is when you add those other dimensions in for obstacle avoidance or obstacle sensing, you've got to only got to process that information. You've got extra cameras on there to gather the information, but then you have to process that information. So that takes a bigger chipset inside. It takes more horsepower, which drinks more electrons, which means you're going to reduce your flight time. So if you're trying to keep a quad small, sophisticated, with a long flight time and a long flight distance, you've got to kind of balance those things out. So I think they've done the perfect job of finding that gentle pivot point between just enough and not too much. And I really believe that having front, back, and down crash avoidance is plenty for me. And if you fly a lot, if you're like me and you fly in very congested environments, you probably don't use the crash avoidance that often. So it's up to you if you want to do it, but I think three-way is plenty for me. I also love the fact that they built in the brand new APAS 3.0. Now, APAS is it's an artificial intelligence system built inside this unit that allows it to dodge obstacles when it's flying. So when it's autonomous mode and you're doing all those trick shots, it's looking around it to see obstacles and it's planning ways around those obstacles. So it sort of takes some of the responsibility of being a co-pilot in a lot of ways when you're flying to sort of say, Rick, you're heading for a tree, I'm going to avoid that. Now, it isn't the same as obstacle avoidance, which basically just stops in its tracks or tries to find a way around it. This is more of a cinematic approach to say, I'm going to have to fly over there and there's a tree between us, so I'm going to gently find a way around that tree without disturbing that optical flow, if you will, of that video that I'm shooting. So APAS 3.0 is phenomenally smart, and again, it's on the Mavic Air 2. It could be on a larger quad, much more expensive, but they built it in here. The one feature that blew me away with this quad, and I still, again, can't get over it, is the fact that they built in ADS-B in, which means if you don't know what ADS-B is a system that planes use now. It's mandated in all smaller planes that are flying, where planes have to broadcast their telemetry, their GPS coordination, their heading, their altitude, all the important things about knowing where a plane is in 3D space. They're broadcasting that all the time. But if you don't have ADS-B in, like we do here, you're not going to know the plane's up there. So they're broadcasting like crazy. You don't know they're up there. The fact that they built ADS-B in on this means that when you're flying this and you're out in the field and a plane is approaching you, you're going to know well in advance of that plane entering your airspace that it's heading your way. So if you're out in the field and you're flying this thing and it starts talking to you, hey, there's a plane approaching, you know you can lower your drone, so you're never going to be sort of at risk with introducing your new drone to an airplane up there. Now again, they're not supposed to fly below 500 feet. We're not supposed to fly above 400 feet, but every now and then there's a helicopter coming in, or if it's a sightseeing plane at the shore, they may cruise down low over the ocean. It's really nice for me, knowing I've got somebody protecting me with this ADS-B, to not put me in harm's way. It's just another safety feature built in. And again, I brag about DJI all the time, and I know I get accused of being a DJI fanboy, but it's because of innovative features like that you don't have to put in there, but they're thinking about it, going, how can we make the drone safer? We built in sensing, we built in APAS. What about ADS? Can we build ADS-B in there to let the pilot know that there's another airplane in the area? Again, a brilliant, innovative, leading edge feature. Again, no drone on the planet has that, but the Mavic Air 2 right now. All right, the other thing I want to talk about a little bit's the remote, because this is the part of the drone that you're going to spend the most time with. You're going to power this up, put it up in the air, and then all the flight time you're going to be holding on to this thing. And they've completely redesigned the controller. I love the fact that it's small and compact. They've really spent a lot of time thinking about how this is held in your hands. It's perfectly balanced. All the buttons fall right where you'd expect them to fall. There aren't a lot of auxiliary buttons on there to make it confusing. You can, in 30 minutes, understand exactly how to fly this quad, know where all the buttons are. I love the fact that you can unscrew the joysticks and pop them in the bottom, so it makes it really small and easy to put away. One of the things I've picked on forever are the antennas on the remote controllers, because they're very, very fragile, and you have to make sure that you have them aligned perfectly. They have to be flat and parallel to each other and facing your drone. They've eliminated the antennas. Actually, they haven't eliminated them. They've actually built them into the controller on the top over here, so you're always perfectly facing your drone with the antennas in perfect alignment to give you the best possible radiation pattern downfield for the strongest connection. So nothing to break, nothing to worry about, and you don't have to worry about aligning them. They're just ready to go when you're ready to fly. They've also tucked the cabling in down here, which is really nice. So overall, I think this is great. The only drawback to this one, which I'm sure they're going to fix soon with accessories, is the fact that it only extends that far, which means if you've got a phone, you're fine, but if you try to put a small tablet in there, it's not far enough to actually jam the tablet in. But there are tablet holders, aftermarket tablet holders that fit in there. There are attachments that'll actually extend this a little bit further. So all those things really fix it if you've got a bigger tablet and you want to use it with the controller. But I love the controller. I also love the battery life in the controller. I love the long flight time on the quad. I mentioned that earlier, 34 minutes, and the distance is just brilliant. So overall, I'm blown away by the Mavic Air 2's capabilities for the price. And I'll talk a little bit at the end of this clip when I'm comparing the two of who this fits, but you can already imagine having a quad that folds up small enough to essentially put in your pocket if you're wearing a big jacket and carry with you everywhere means you're always going to have your quad. Whereas the bigger quads like the Evo 2, it's a little bit more of a thought process of should I bring it along? Because it's bigger, it's heavier, it's a little bit more work to get it set up. This is small, it's quick, it's easy to use, and again, you can be flying this thing in 30 minutes and almost be a brilliant pilot in a week's time if you spend a little bit of time learning how to fly it. So for me, the Mavic Air 2 is the perfect compromise, and I don't use that in a bad way, I mean that in a good way, between spending too much on a quad and not getting the features you want. It sort of fits right in that middle zone, which is exactly what you want as a consumer. So the Mavic Air 2, brilliant quad, the feature sets in it, put it well ahead of most of the quads on the market today. Now stay tuned and I'll get into the Evo 2 next. Now I'll dive a little bit deeper into the Evo 2, and I love this drone. And I know you're thinking, you just said that about the Mavic Air 2, Rick. Have you ever flown a drone that you don't love? Yeah, plenty of them. There's a ton of drones out there that aren't worth the time of charging their batteries to get them up in the air, but the Mavic Air 2 and the Evo 2 are drones that are with me every time I leave the house. They have features that I absolutely love that separate them from all the other drones on the market, and I fly them almost every day. If there's a beautiful day out, they're both in my car and I'm heading to a location, I've got them both up in the air. But again, when you're deciding what drone is right for you, the two things you have to keep in mind are budget and use case. What are you going to spend? What are you going to use the drone for? So what I'm going to try and do is point out the differences, because in some ways, it's not really a fair comparison between the Evo 2 and the Mavic Air 2, because they're kind of dramatically different in where you'd use those drones. There is some overlap, but there's some stark differences between them, and I'll try and point those out now. So for starters, Autel Robotics released 3 versions of the Evo 2. They released this one, which is the 8K version. That's the one that hit the market first. They released the Evo 2 Pro, which has a 1-inch sensor on it. And they released 2 versions of the Evo 2 Dual, which have both a FLIR camera and an optical camera, and either 320 on the FLIR or 640 on the FLIR as far as resolution goes. And that's your first clue of what separates this from all the other drones on the market. It's one of the first drones that made it easy for you to change out the imaging package. And that's one of the brilliant innovations that Autel has built into this drone, is the fact that they built a flying platform that has incredibly smart characteristics to it, but gives you the option to swap out the imaging package to meet your needs. So let's say, for example, you start off with the Evo 2 8K, which I've got here. That's the least expensive version. And you decide down the road that you want to do commercial work and you need better resolution on your photos. You can jump up to the Evo 2 Pro, swap out the sensor. You don't have to buy a brand new drone. And maybe you want to get out there and do some kind of volunteer work where you're working with rescue squads or police and you're trying to use the FLIR camera to find people in the woods that are lost, or maybe looking through a fire to see if anybody's out there. You can upgrade to that camera. So what you've got with the Evo 2 is really a flying platform that's extensible, which means you can constantly upgrade it as new camera and imaging systems come out. And that, I think, is a really good value. Now, it is an expensive drone compared to the Mavic Air 2. Mavic Air 2 is about $800. The base model of this, the 8K, is about $1,500. But again, for me, having the flexibility of swapping out the imaging package probably offsets that price quite a bit. The other thing you have to notice about the Evo 2, pretty apparent, is the fact that it's a bigger drone. It's twice the weight. It's a little bit bigger. That's a disadvantage when you're trying to bring it along to have some fun in an afternoon. It's a bigger drone, so it's a little bit more work to put it together, get it in a case, get it in the car, whereas the Mavic Air is a lighter drone. It's smaller. It's easier to bring along. So both of those considerations around use case are really important. The other thing I'll mention is that Autel built in some incredibly leading edge features. They were the first guys to have the longer flight time. So it's 40 minutes of flight time compared to 34 on the Mavic Air 2. And you wouldn't think that that extra 6 minutes makes a big difference. But I'm telling you, when you have it up in the air, a lot of the time you spend is getting to your target. And then you want to spend as much time on the target trying to get that perfect footage or that beautiful picture. Having that extra 6 minutes means I can stay on target a little bit longer in the air and get back and still have plenty of battery left. So 40 minutes of flight time. Up until the release of the Mavic Air 2, this had the longest flight distance at 9 kilometers, which again blows my mind that it can fly more than 5 miles. But again, think about it. You're not going to fly beyond visual line of sight if you're following the rules. So the fact that they can both fly really far, 9 kilometers and 10 kilometers, means I'm going to have rock solid connection and close. So that's another advantage that they both share. The other thing I love about the Evo 2 is a remote controller. It's got this built-in screen, which they kind of had in the Evo 1, which was the original Evo product. And I like the fact that I can use that for telemetry, and I can put a tablet in there as well, or I should say a phone in there or a tablet holder on it. And I can use the tablet or the phone to use my first-person view and see what I'm filming and use this for telemetry. Or if I don't decide to bring my phone with me or the phone's getting a little low on battery, I can use the button on the side and switch this to my first-person view when I'm flying and still have some telemetry information as well. So it's a very versatile unit as far as the remote controller goes. The only thing I don't like, and I mentioned this when I was talking about the Mavic Air 2, is I don't like these antennas sticking up because these are fragile, and if you're not careful with it, or you drop it, or you fold it up wrong, you could crack one of the antennas. So you have to be a little bit more careful with this one than you do with the Mavic Air 2. But in general, the 360 crash avoidance is also another nice feature that, again, is a major innovation. The fact that they can put that crash avoidance in there and have the brains inside the unit to actually analyze all the information that's coming in from the cameras on the front, the cameras on the side, the cameras on the top, the bottom, the back, means that it's processing all that information. And I'm telling you, it'd be impossible for you to crash this thing. I've tried to crash this on purpose just to see how good that crash avoidance is, and it's impossible to crash it. So if you turn on crash avoidance with this and you try to run it along into a tree, it's going to stop 90 feet. 30 meters away from that tree. So it's going to be very, very cautious. The other thing I like about this is a lot of the quads that have obstacle avoidance are kind of a dead stop. So when it gets close enough to a target where it sees it and wants to stop, it'll stop and you can't get any closer. This one has what I'll call a graduated obstacle avoidance, where at 90 feet or 30 meters, it's going to stop in the air. But if you want to continue in on that target, you can force it to go in on that target. So I can actually hold the joystick forward and have it violate that 30 meters at a very slow pace to get close enough to something I want to film. The downside of the 360 crash avoidance is that because it's looking for things up to 30 meters away from you, if you're flying in congested areas like a forest or maybe around a lot of buildings, it's always going to be triggering. So you're going to find you're going to turn it off probably quite a bit if you're flying in those congested areas, and then you're flying with no crash avoidance whatsoever. So it's a brilliant drone from that perspective. Again, it's bigger, it flies longer, it's heavier, it's more expensive, but if you're filming commercially, having the ability to put this thing up in a very busy area with very high gusting winds where the smaller drones don't do as well, there's something to be said for a larger airframe that has a little bit more mass to it because it's got inertia and it's not going to get buffeted around as much with the wind. So this lends itself to commercial environments a little better than the Mavic Air 2 does. Now, I'm not saying you can't use the Mavic Air 2 for commercial environments. People are filming all the time with it, but the fact that I've got this extra weight in the sky means that it's going to stay on target. It's going to shift a little bit less than the lighter drones do, which means the gimbals have to work a little bit less and you're not going to have that wobble in the image if it does vibrate a lot because of the wind. So that's really nice. The last thing I'll talk about is the 8K on this. Now, a lot of people made a big deal out of the 8K when it first came out, and I think that that's a really important feature. Now, again, 8K is a little ahead of the average consumer right now, so most computers out there, actually the vast majority of computers, are not powerful enough to actually edit 8K. The advantage to 8K, though, is you get a much larger image. So if you're cropping a picture or if you're editing 8K footage, you can actually pull in a little bit tighter and not have that pixelization that you'd have with like a 4K image trying to pull in and that or blow that out. So the 8K is a real advantage. It does a phenomenal job at 4K as well. Both of these two drones are using a 1/2-inch sensor with a quad Bayer lensing on top of it. So it's very similar in the imaging package, but this one does record up to 8K. And again, I'm not sure if DJI is going to enable that capability, if the processing is even inside that quad to be able to do 8K on it, but I love the fact that I can do 8K on this one native. And it really does get a phenomenal picture. And again, I'm going to have some examples of both of these quads coming up next to show you exactly what this one looks like and what the Mavic Air 2 looks like. And I've recorded those, just to be fair, at 4K 60 frames a second. And I'll run those two now individually. So I'll do the Mavic Air 2 first, and then I'll do the Evo 2. And I'll put a link below that you can go to and actually download those files, because I'm not going to do anything to them. I'm not going to tweak them here in the clip, but you can download them and play with them at your heart's content. And you can judge for yourself which you think looks better. So stay tuned, and I'll run those next. In this last section, I'll try and help you decide which of these two quads might be right for you. Now, I've gone through the specifications, I've talked about the individual features that separate them, but the honest truth is it's a really hard question to answer because everybody's different. And the other truth is there is no such thing as a perfect quad. Both of these quads are pretty close to perfect, but that's why there's competition. For some of you, this is the perfect quad. And for others, this is the perfect quad. So how do you make a decision between them? Well, it's simple. It comes down to the two things I mentioned at the top of the clip: your budget and your need. How much do you have to spend and what are you going to use the quad for? So let's take a look at budget first, because that's really pretty clear which of these two would work for you based on what you can spend on the quad. But the thing you have to remember about budget is that you're not just buying the quad and starting to fly. Sure, you can buy the quad, charge up the batteries and go out and fly, but I promise you, a week after you've owned the quad, you're going to want accessories. You're going to want extra batteries. You may want a case for it that's a little bit more sophisticated than one you had. You're going to definitely want a landing mat. You're going to want other accessories, spare propellers and everything else. So you're not just buying the quad, you're buying into an ecosystem that has a price point. And when you buy this quad, the batteries are less expensive than this quad because it's a bigger quad and the batteries are bigger. So when you're thinking about budget, it's a matter of buying the quad and all the accessories that come along with it. Now, having said that, either one of these quads, you'd be well served by buying the advanced package. In this case, it's called the Fly More combination. With the Evo 2, it's called the Rugged package, because what you're getting there is a bundle of products that include the quad and a bunch of extra stuff that you're going to end up buying anyway at a higher price. So with the Fly More combination, you're getting extra batteries, you're getting a nice little charging hub, you're getting a case to carry it, extra propellers, all things you're going to buy 2 weeks after owning the quad. With the Evo 2, it's called the Rugged package, where you get a nice hard case with it, you get extra batteries, you get a charging hub, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So if you're going to buy either one of these quads, make sure you buy that advanced package, and that'll save you a lot of money going forward. But it's pretty clear between them, $800, $1,500. So your budget's going to dictate pretty quickly which of these two you go with. Now, you may be thinking, well, gee, if I can stretch my budget, does it make sense to go here? Well, that's where the second question comes in. What are you going to use the quad for? Are you going to go out and do commercial work right away? Are you looking to put a quad up in the air, get your Part 107 license and film commercial establishments, or maybe work with farmers and survey fields? Probably a better choice for if you're going commercial. Not that you can't film commercially with the Mavic Air 2, but it's heavier. It's got a longer flight time. It's got a better camera up front. It's extensible, which means if you're in that commercial space, you can swap it out for a 1-inch camera, maybe down the road to a dual camera. So it gives you a lot more options than the Mavic Air 2 does. Now, having said that, this flies longer. This flies further. They both have 1/2-inch CMOS sensors, so the imaging on them is really, really good. The advantage to the Mavic Air 2 is because it's smaller and because it's easier to put in your pack, you're going to bring it along with you more often than you'll bring the Evo 2. Not that you can't bring the Evo 2 with you, but it's a bigger deal to bring this along with you. So you got to fold it up. It's heavier. It takes up more space. If you've got the Rugged case, it's a bigger case. This one you can fold up, put in your backpack, take it with you, which means you're going to have it with you more often to capture those perfect shots that you didn't expect you'd be putting a drone up in the air to actually capture that footage. So the advantage again is if you're a consumer, maybe you haven't flown a lot, and you want to get into the hobby and you've got the budget to support this, that's a great place to start. I also love the fact that it's got ADS-B built into it because I love knowing there are other airplanes in the area. Now, these guys will probably come out with that in the next iteration, or maybe there's something they can do to enable it on this one by putting a sensor on it, but that ADS-B is a pretty big advantage to this one. So between these two, you can probably see where I'm going with this. Consumer level, fantastic product for that price point. I still can't get over the fact that all that technology is built into a package this small that flies this well for that price. With this one, I love the extensibility. When I'm flying commercially, which is what I use this for, I love the fact that if I'm in the field with 4 screws, I can swap out the camera and go from an 8K camera to a 1-inch sensor that records amazing footage at 6K, or I can flip it out when I'm doing volunteer work on the weekends to put the FLIR camera in a moment's notice, get it up in the air, and go find that lost kid in the woods or help those people rescue somebody. I mean, I haven't done that yet, but that's what we're hoping to do with it. And having that dual camera in there gives me the ability to see that. Different use case than this one. And I fly this one all the time. This is the one that goes with me whenever I'm going down the shore, out in the farm, or if I'm heading over to the mountains, I've got this one with me. So again, different use cases, different budgets. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. But let me tell you, whichever one of these you decide to buy, you're not going to be disappointed. You're looking at some of the most advanced technology that's ever been released for quads, period. There's no argument. We can have that my dad can beat up your dad argument all day long about brands and what features are out there. The features that both of these drones put in the market today are 5 years out. As an engineer, I can tell you, I'm blown away by the advancements that have been made on both of these quads in the last year. They're just amazing flying machines. So you're not going to be disappointed either way. But again, if you've got the budget that's a little bit tight, and you're a consumer level type thing, and maybe down the road you'll move to a Part 107 commercial flyer, perfect fit. If you're big into the commercial space and you want the ability to swap out the camera down the road, perfect fit. So kind of up to you. And I know it seems like I'm Switzerland here. No offense to you guys in Switzerland. I'm not trying to be neutral, but as I said at the top of the clip, I love both of my children equally for different reasons. And that's what you've got here. So I hope you found this clip helpful. I love doing these kind of comparisons. I've got a lot more that I've started. So if you enjoy this kind of thing, stay tuned to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button down there and join the Drone Valley family. We have so many different clips coming up on different quads and other high-tech gear that's going to be posted over the next couple of weeks. You're not going to want to miss them. Plus, we've got a ton of drone giveaways coming this summer that you might want to get in on. So if you're subscribed to the channel, you'll know when we start those giveaways in a week or two, and you can enter, and maybe you'll win a drone and be out there flying like me and smiling ear to ear every time you put the drone up in the air. Anyway, that's it for today. Oh, by the way, we do have accessories for both these drones on the website. So if you need anything that I was talking about before, hit the Drone Valley website. There's a link for it below, and support the channel. You can buy the accessories from us. We ship daily, and I can get it to you faster than Amazon can. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, happy flying.